There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With even more exclusive content, with over 150 channels in your vehicle, including the widest, deepest variety of music, ad-free. Root for your team. Get news. Listen to whatever makes you laugh. And hear all about your favorite stars. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels filled with music and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video. Thousands of hours of shows and performances on demand. What you love is on now.
In the ever-evolving landscape that is mobile audio, so many different categories have come to fruition that weren't there before. But is there really a single category that has taken up the space, the importance, and the dynamic that is DSP, or digital sound processing? Whether they're standalone units or DSP integrated amplifiers and the software that controls them, this is the topic that everybody is hot to trot about because it is 100% critical to finding success in mobile audio today. This evening, we've got 6 of the most prominent brands within DSP to come on board with us and share with us unique features of each of their brands. And we're going to do it all in one sitting right here. This is CMA Live, presented by SiriusXM, the DSP episode, part 1 of 2. And it starts now. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of CMA Live presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Now, if you haven't heard already, on CMANetworks.com, we are literally covering for almost an entire month nothing but DSP. Digital sound processing has taken up so much space, and there's a ton of brands that are involved in offering products within this space. In fact, every single day, we're going to be going one-on-one with these brands, and we're going to talk about the hardware that they offer. We're going to talk about the software, and the trainers are going to come on and teach you some of the key tricks and tips of how to tune, but more importantly, just a walkthrough of their setup and how their software works. So definitely stay tuned and check out. I'm going to be showing you guys the calendar at the end of the show. Tonight, we've got 6 different brands. All of them have their own unique features and their own characteristics, and we really did our best to kind of bring you that diversity so that you guys, the dealers, could absorb this information and make the right choices that best suit your store and business. We're going to start right away with our first brand this evening, a brand that is no stranger to sound processing of any kind. In fact, it's in their name. Of course, we're talking about Audio Control. And this evening, joining us is their sales manager, Matt Palumbo.
Hey, Ben, how are you?
Matt, I'm doing good. I'm getting revved up. This is part 1 of a 2-part series, DSP, arguably the most talked about, most action, most things happening category in the whole industry. And of course, we have to bring Audio Control to the table. It's, like I said, it's kind of in your name. Let's start off. Let's get into it. There was a rumor. I got messages. I even got a screenshot that you guys at the last K-Fest were showing a new interface that nobody knew what it was, nor was there any signage or anything indicative of what was going on. I'm not sure what you're trying to pull off there, but we caught you. What was that? And can you confirm that what I'm saying is true?
Yeah, I can confirm the rumors. So we were trying to just kind of give like a I don't want to call it a soft launch, but more give like a sneak preview, I guess would be the best way to describe it, of a new DM Smart DSP application that we're going to be launching here pretty soon. We've been talking about for a while, coming out with some new features. Audio Control over the years since we launched our first DSP that ran this software about 6-7 years ago. We've revised and came out with new features along the way, firmware revisions, software revisions, and constantly adding new features and giving people the things that they're asking for. And it's time. We've got some requests out there that people are asking for specific things, and you know what, we're going to give it to them. So that's what we were showing off a little bit.
And I'm sure you got some feedback, and hopefully we're going to see a rendition of that soon. Let's break it out for the folks. Dealers are tuning in. They want to get a sense of what's out there, what everybody has to offer. And Audio Control has this DSP category covered out in quite a few different categories. The first one I'm going to talk to you about is your standalone DSP units. Those are kind of go-to. They're kind of big units in the sense that lots of inputs, lots of outputs. Why don't you talk to us about that?
Yeah, for sure. So with audio control, we essentially offer two standalone units, or what I call standalone DSPs. So we have the DM608 and DM810. With audio control, DM stands for digital matrixing, which basically means, if you think about it, pretty much we can assign any input to any output, which most DSPs can do, but most people just don't think of it that way. But when you get down, that's pretty much what they do, right? Not to mention all the customizability and tunability, etc. So with the DM608 and the 810, they are very, very similar products. The DM608 is, as the name suggests, 6 channels in, 8 channels out, and M810 is 8 channels in, 10 channels out. So you've got plenty of channels there to deal with, most of the systems in today's marketplace. And one of the unique DM608 and 810 compared to there and even some of our other products are that these two have a digital axle and optical input. I know there's other products out there, of course, that have that too, but in the audio control, those are the two pieces with us that have coax digital and optical in.
Perfect. So 2 standalone units, take your choice depending on what your needs are as far as inputs and outputs go, and you have the solution for both kind of scenarios, kind of like not an entry, but I guess a lower one and one that has more diverse inputs and outputs. Now,
yeah, we wanted to have some options there, different price levels, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Here's a curveball for you. Went to your website, looked under sound processors because we're doing DSP. I'm going to do a little bit of research, and then I see a unit that I was not familiar with. In fact, I was looking. I dug a little bit deeper, and I came to realize this was a little bit old school. So I want you to talk about it. Tell me about this unit called the DQDX.
So the DQDX is, again, a really cool unit. This is actually a little bit of a throwback for me. It's one of the first units from audio control that I sold as a retailer. So it has been around for a little while. It's been revised several times. It's gotten a little bit smaller, a little bit sleeker and that sort of thing. But the overall controls and everything are the same. If you are a store owner, a manager, an installer, an enthusiast, whatever, and you're interested in car audio and you keep hearing about DSP, you're like, yeah, you know what though? I am not a computer guy. I hate software. Or, I'm a store manager and my technicians hate software, or whatever the case may be. Basically what a DQDX is, without going super deep into it, is it's basically like a DSP light. It's essentially a DSP that doesn't use software. It uses your traditional dials and knobs and settings, switches, I should say, for settings. So, you have 6 channels in, 6 channels out. It's great for adding on to an existing system. Anytime I get asked, like, hey, what's something I could add to my existing aftermarket stereo setup and just make it better, right? Well, the clear answer should be DSP. But let's say you can't afford a, true software-driven DSP, or let's say you are just, hey, I don't want to do something with software. I want traditional old school dials and knobs. Then the DQDX is right up your alley. Not only does it do equalization for front, rear, and sub, it also has a line driver built in, crossover. We also have the ability to do signal summing, etc., independent input and output levels for every channel. And something that's really unique is it does time correction, or signal delay more specifically, without software and without measuring.
Like a dial.
You sit in the driver's seat and basically, I'm really summarizing here, but you basically sit in the driver's seat, and when it's in setup mode, you can turn what's more or less the bass knob. And as you turn that knob, it has detents in it. And every click of the knob, the person sitting in the seat will actually hear the artist's voice kind of move from the front left speaker, and with each click of the knob, you kind of hear their voice move to the center of the soundstage. So it's simplified. Is it exactly what a big top dog DSP does? No, of course not. But for a quarter of the price, it does about 70% of what most DSPs do, and with the simplification of no software. So it's a great way to kind of dip your toes if you're thinking about it.
Or maybe you're just an old school cat and you dig that old school vibe.
That could be
absolutely. All right, let's go from old school.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, let's go from old school right to new school. Main category, of course, that's kind of like, the go-to category really right now, what everybody's talking about. And that's something that audio control has been doing for quite some time. And that is having an amplifier, multi-channel with DSP built in. So what do you have to offer right now in that category?
Yeah, so Audio Control's been doing integrated DSP amps for quite some time, longer than probably most, I would say. What's neat though is that we started with a 4-channel model, the D4.800. These days we have a 4-channel, 5-channel, and a 6-channel DSP amplifier, and they are all super powerful. Lots of power on tap, really great sounding amplifiers too. Audio Control's tagline has always been making good sound great. Actually, long time ago it was making good sound better, but we changed it to making good sound great because that sounds much
You
better.
should have just changed it to more better.
Making good sound more better.
More better. Yeah.
But yeah, so the D4, D5, and D6 channel amplifiers are fantastic sounding amps. And, really our kind of claim to fame with these amplifiers is they have the right features, they have the right amount of power, which is lots. But the software side of it, software is a challenging thing for most people. Even experienced techs still struggle with software a lot of times. And that's really where we kind of come in, is the software is exceedingly easy to use. I can train most people how to use it. Even just a enthusiast that's a do-it-yourselfer can learn how to use this software in a couple hours on a weekend, just tooling around in the driveway type thing. So it's very simple to use, but it still gives you the powerful enough features to be able to get professional level results and get the results that even competitors are looking for. So the most popular in that category, I'd say, Ben, is the D5 1300. It's D-5.1300. As the name suggests, D means DSP, 5 for 5 channels, and 1300 is 1300 watts RMS. So it is a very powerful 5-channel, and it has 2 channels of DSP output that are RCA. So if you're looking to expand on the system down the road, or add a small 2-channel amp to drive some rear speakers or whatever it is, you have those channels to kind of expand on the system as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a go-to. We see that used a lot, 1-channel systems,
For sure.
but great, also future-proof because of those outputs as well.
Yeah.
I would be remiss if I have audio control on a sound processing show and not talk about the legendary Epicenter. Now, I know it's not a traditional DSP, before you jump all over me, but come on, man. Like the like you're talking Epicenter, that was like one of, as far as I'm concerned, one of the first units that I ever played with that digitally processed sound, DSP.
Yeah.
So I'd like for you to talk about it.
For sure. Yeah, we've been making the Audio Control Epicenter since the early 80s. It's a legendary product in the 12-volt world, in the car sound, auto sound, mobile audio world, whatever you want to call it. And for good reason, right? As you mentioned, it's the first piece of probably audio processing that a lot of people have ever played with or used, whether they realize it or not. And we joke at Audio Control a lot, like it's the best-selling DSP of all time, because we have sold over 1 million of them. Last summer, right around the same time, we hit the 1 million mark with the Epicenter concert series. And we've continued to kind of push the Epicenter line. We've expanded it a little bit. We now offer something called the Epicenter Micro, which is a full-blown Epicenter, just in a half the size chassis, that also has OEM integration features and all sorts of cool stuff built in. We can dive more into that later, but yeah, I mean, the Epicenter is truly a signal processor, right? It is changing the way the signal sounds and what it does, and it has been, a great DSP for a lot of people, and it's the one that probably most people are familiar with, right? So it's an awesome piece, and for those of you that have never played with one, or have maybe heard of it but didn't know what it was, give one a demo, give one a shot, and try it before you make any judgment. They are so much more fun to listen to than I think a lot of people give them credit for. Whether you are listening to country or rock or hip hop, or there's a lot of misconceptions out there about like, oh, that's for people that listen to X genre of music. And really, it's for anybody that just wants to add a little bit of fun to their sound, even hip hop that has lots of bass, or EDM or whatever. Hell, even today's country has a lot of bass, right? But you can make it even better with an Epicenter, and it's so much fun to listen to when you have one in your car.
Not just better, Matt, more better.
More better. There you go.
Absolutely. And let's remind the folks, I mean, we are going with a deep dive with Audio Control later on this month. What day is that again?
Yes, July 28th, we'll be diving deeper into all this. I'll be showing a demonstration of this new software and really kind of digging into the not only how to set it up and what the normal kind of walkthrough of that would be like, but I'll also be highlighting some of those new features, no, all of those new features that we've added to this software. So maybe some of you that are even existing audio control users would want to tune in and check out what's new in that new firmware software update. And it's not just bug fixes and little things. There's some really cool new stuff in there. So make sure to check that out July 28th here on CMA.
There you go. Check that out. So if you want to find out all the information that Matt just spit up, all the specs that he's talking about, you want to fact check him, audiocontrol.com. If he said something wrong, make sure you drop it in the comment box, but I'm sure he did not. And if you're a Canadian dealer and you're interested in getting on board with Audio Control, make sure you get a hold of the folks at GemSen. They are the exclusive Canadian distributor. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll see you later on this month.
Hey, sounds great. Thanks, Ben.
Take care, man. All right, so from an Audio Control brand, we're going to jump to a brand that I would say most of you tuning in would refer to as more of a, a source unit brand, because that's kind of where Alpine, got the roots. But if you really think about it, Alpine's been providing complete car audio solutions from the get-go. And in fact, there are quite a few generations now when it comes to DSP. Now, they obviously launched the newest version of their top-of-the-line flagship F#1 status, and we were surprised to see that at the last K-Fest in Orlando, they took some of that DNA and it trickled down to a new line of product called Status. And here to tell us all about it is the brand specialist from Alpine. His name is Dan Greenwood.
Hello.
Hello, Dan. How are you? Welcome to CMA Live.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I got to have you because you're the man with the information that I want. I had a chance to sit down with Mr. Brooks, Eric Brooks, at the show, asked him a few questions. It was like kind of hot off the shelf. I didn't get a chance to really dive into it. Today, we're talking about DSP. And the first question I want to ask you, this is a statement piece for F #1 status has always been a statement. But this new status line of products certainly is a statement piece, especially when you're backing that up with the model like that. The D90 that we're going to talk about later this month. It's a DSP integrated amplifier. Tell us all about it.
So yeah, it's an awesome piece. So just like you said, with F#1 status, it's kind of our flagship piece. It's our best that we can make. So we wanted to make something that I'd say is a little more for the masses, and that's where status comes in. And what's really cool about it is a lot of the technology and a lot of the stuff we came up with developing F#1 status does trickle down through the line, and the first time we're going to be seeing some of that DNA is in the status line. And for those looking at pictures of the product or anything, some of you might be have a hard time telling the difference between F#1 status and status, because both lines look very similar to each other, and they're going to be both full-fledged lines. So we'll have speakers, amplifiers, the DSP amplifier, as well as a head unit in the status line. But mainly focusing on the DSP, it's also a DSP amplifier. And it's a 12-channel amp and a 14-channel DSP. And I like to kind of refer to it as a Swiss Army knife DSP because it does everything you could ever want it to do. It's pretty awesome.
Very, very cool. So lots of channels, that's for sure. And it's got some power to boot to back it up. Now, you said it. You kind of took the words out of my mouth. DNA, at first glance, when I first saw images of that guy, I was like, wait a minute. Is this F1 or is that? Oh, it's not. So the tooling, the look and the feel, but how much of it, as far as performance, as far as internal components, as far as the software, really is taking DNA from the F#1 status line?
So a lot of it, a lot of the design and a lot of the design of the internal components. Now, obviously, we're not going to be using the same components across the board, because then we're just creating number and another one status system again. But a lot of the technology that we've learned developing, like our new power supplies that were in our new amplifiers, we kind of took that DNA and whatever components we came up with, let's put that into the status, and it's going to give you a really nice high signal noise ratio. It's actually 110 dB signal noise ratio. You're going to be seeing that kind of across the board with our status line, as well as just a lot of the going into the little off topic here, but on the speakers, a lot of the design characteristics in the speakers are the same kind of cone materials, everything like that. So wherever we can take some of the technology and some of the components that we're using in F#1 status without making it cost the price of F#1 status, that's where status will come in.
Very, very cool. Let's dive into the software, because also on top of the hardware, there is a new software interface. And like I said, Alpine, this is not your first rodeo. you've had other versions of software. So for those that are maybe familiar with the previous versions, what is it about the new one that they might notice a difference immediately? And for those that are new to it, what is it that you want to point out about this new software?
So in the software, it's really simplified. And for those of you that are familiar with our existing DSPs, so we have the 0850X, I just call it the A50X, and then the X09. Both of those have similar looking software. We kind of took the combination of what both of those look like, and that's what you're going to see in the D90. And whenever we dive in deeper here in a little while, you guys will see, we're going to show you all the software, but kind of took a lot of the things that simplified things to make it a really easy GUI, and made it to where almost everything you need while you're tuning is all on one screen, and you just have tabs you can go back and forth between, like delay out in a tab, all your EQs on a tab with crossovers and everything like that. It really helps simplify the process of tuning, as well as setting up the system. So there's also going to be an input and output configuration wizard that we kind of brought over from the X09, but it's really simplified and it's super easy to figure out.
I gotta say, I had a chance to take a sneak peek at this new interface, and it's a good looking interface, man. I think I for sure the way it's designed, the aesthetics of it, really graphically pleasing. And like Dan said, we'll be diving into that. I believe it's on Monday. Tune in, and you're gonna see all the features right there. Let's talk about OEM integration, because that's kind of an important deal, right? You don't come up with a multi-channel DSP one platform if you're not thinking about OEM integration. So what are some of the advantages with this new amplifier that'll really help in modern system builds?
So yeah, OEM integration is huge now. I mean, a lot of us are going to have cars coming in where you can't change out the radio, and that's where DSP is really coming in. So on the D90, we're going to not only have your analog low-level RCA inputs, we're also going to offer, it has 12-channel high-level input as well. So if you have a OEM amplifier and you need to do any kind of summing or input mixing like that, 12 channels should get a lot of cars covered. And we also are going to offer digital coax as well as optical digital inputs as well. So if you have a digital source like the new status head unit, you can use that as a source. And there's another really cool feature of way you can mix those sources together. So tune in on Monday. I'll show you how that works. It's really cool.
Very, very, very cool. Yeah. All right. So OEM integration, check. Now,
yes,
high res is kind of like a talk of the town. And obviously, all this status stuff is high res certified. Yeah. Having said that, though, Dan, I wanted to kind of pick your brain on this one. Is this new status line being marketed simply to that high res customer, to that higher end, or do you feel that this is going to go much broader because of its, its feature set and the way that it can integrate into new systems?
Oh, I think you nailed it right there. I believe it's more for a broad audience. Now, it's definitely not saying it's not high res. So the whole system is 24-bit 192K sampling. That's done internally in the DSP. So there is no down sampling below that rate. So for those of you that like to use a lot of high res audio or stream Tidal, for example, anything like that, we're going to make sure you're getting all the fidelity out of your audio. But we also noticed that high-res audio is kind of getting a little more popular, especially with streaming services and faster connections on our phone and everything like that. So this is kind of a future-proof system, so it's kind of good for anybody.
Awesome. Well, like I said, tune in Monday. Dan and I are going to go deep diving on the entire hardware side, but very much so on the software side. You're going to see that GUI, how pleasant it is to work with. If you're interested in more Alpine information, and you know what, I don't know, I don't think this is the last we've seen of the status line, by the way. I think there's more coming down the pipe. But anyhow, when it does happen, when it gets announced, check out the website below, alpine-usa.com. That's the official website for Alpine. And if you're a Canadian dealer and you're interested in getting on some Alpine gear, go ahead and reach out to the folks at Gentech International, gentech-intl.com, since they are the Canadian distributor for Alpine. Dan, thank you so much for sharing with us all this new stuff about status.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. I'll see you on Monday. Take care, sir.
All righty. Thank you.
All right, our very next brand that we're going to go to also has been in the DSP game for a long time, and recently they've been causing a mess with some new announcements, especially in their top-level amplification offering. We're talking about Moscone, which is, of course, both distributed by Orca in the US and by Trends Electronics in Canada. I had the chance to catch up to their national trainer. We call him Mr. Nick Wingate. And let me tell you, he was a little bit more than just a little excited about all this gear. Here's how that interview went. Nick, hot off the press is this brand new announcement of a new GUI for the Moscone DSP software. I think it's version 5.23. Can you tell us some of the new features that it's going to feature?
Sure. It's 5.23 is a continuation of 3.15. And what they've done is they've added some more processing power that a number of dealers around the world have been clamoring for, especially here in the United States. One of the things, and I think it's probably the biggest thing that they've added, is a brand new crossover selection part of the GUI. Normally, when you would open the filter section up, output channel filter section up, you would have 10 individual filters left and right to choose from, and you would go to crossover points there. And you'd have to go through various different steps to select a 6, 12, 18, 24 dB project slope or whatever. This, and what they've done this time is they've eliminated that process to where they've added a box right next to those 10 filters that literally you're going to click on the type of filter you want. Let's just say it's a Linkwitz-Riley. You can click on the filter slope, let's say minus 24 dB. You type in the frequency you want to use, and you're done. And basically, you choose a high pass or a low pass, or you choose both for a band pass. It literally takes 30 seconds. Whereas in the past, you would have to do an awful lot in order for that to take place. I know a lot of people did not understand using two Butterworth 12s gives you a Linkwitz-Riley 24. So they've eliminated that and they made it way easier. That's the big one. Another thing that they've done, which I really like, is for here in North America, they've allowed you to actually take your measurements in inches and transfer it into the measuring section to actually be able to enter your time channel delay, which made things a little bit, because it was very confusing for folks in the United States because they're used to inches and not using centimeters. So they made that a relatively easy thing to do. Yeah, me too. It just was like, okay, guys, really, I understand, completely. And so that made things a little bit easier. Also, what they have added into this is a wavelength calculator. Now, this is in the EQ section, and it's a small. It's part of it. It's like when you take your cursor and you're going to try and use, let's just say, 250 hertz, and you're going to work with 250 hertz. You're going to see the exact wavelength of 250 hertz, and you're also going to see the half wave of 250 hertz. Now, somebody has already asked me, what difference does this make? Well, one of the things that I have been using wavelength calculations for is to determine problem areas in a car. For instance, in my truck, there is, I have a mid-bass driver in each door, and there is a reflection that occurs at 500 hertz because of the length of the wave from the mid-bass driver to my console, and it causes a problem. So if you don't know what that frequency is on the RTA, and you don't have a 1/24th octave and you can't figure exactly what it is, but your RTA is showing you've got a dip, or you've got a nasty peak, and it's around that frequency, one of the things you can do is just take a tape measure and go measure the distance, go to the EQ, play with it, and go, well, that's the distance. There it is. And you can build a notch filter and kill it. And so that's a really cool feature. I really like that part of it. And for those folks who really want to fine tune their cars, another part that's done is in the EQ section with filters, with the 10 filters that you actually have the ability to go in and fine tune the equalization section of each individual output channel. It used to be where you could increase or decrease your filter choice by half a dB. Well, if you're competing out there in Iasca and Emma and you're using this piece, a number of people were asking it to be in 1/10 of a dB increments. Now, why? I don't know. Can you hear that? Probably. But it was something a lot of people were asking for, and so they said, sure. It was just writing code. So, they've done that. And so, these are the things they've done to make things easier and better and actually just give you more power and flexibility with the unit. The big one is crossover.
Yeah. Well, I do encourage our listeners to tune in next week. We're going to have Nick back in a full session of DSP. And I'm pretty darn sure, Nick, you're going to show us a couple of these on the screen to see what you're talking about.
Will. I absolutely will.
Let's move on to some really fun news. Moscone's been just all over social media these last few weeks. Where do I begin? Let's start with the announcement of the all-new Pro 430 amplifier. And this one's got kind of audiophile guys all in a bunch. Can you tell us more about it?
The Pro 430 has been, it's been something we've known about since January. And ever since we got the information about it, a few dealers that were privileged to the information, we were all just like giddy because it's something that the chief design engineer, his name is Filippo at Moscone. Filippo has been saying that this is his crowning glory, that this is the finest amplifier he has ever designed. That's a heck of a statement considering what he's built with the Pro 430, Pro 530, the 410, the zeros. But he was adamant that this was going to be something very, very special. And when we got an idea that this was going to be an amplifier that had a circuit in which it had a sliding bias built into it. And for instance, he told me that the amplifier from 0 to 30 watts continuous power, it stays in pure Class A operation. Okay, great. Fantastic. For those of you who know what that means it's going to sound amazing. It's going to give you a very warm, natural sound. It's going to sound like live. Then normally when you go past that point, it would switch literally to a different bias setting. This amplifier does not do that. It starts sliding from Class A into Class B operation and back and forth, depending on the output and the amount of power it needs, frequency.
It's variable.
Yes, it's variable. And he was looking for a circuit design that basically mimics tubes, such as KT88 tubes, EL34, 6L6 GCs. I can go on. Those, that's what he was after, because if you've ever heard a high-end home audio system utilizing those output power tubes, it is euphoric. It is amazing. It sounds like live music to me. And for a lot of us out there who enjoy that type of sound.
Well, we got other stuff to go to. We can go all day about the 430, Nick, but that's not the only amp that Moscone recently announced. I want to touch base also on the Pro 830.
Okay. Pro 830 is just now being launched. The Pro 830, obviously it's 8 channels in the same chassis as the 430 and the 530. There are 4 channels that are 90 watts a channel, and then it has 4 channels that's 170 watts a channel. Now that's at 4 ohms. If we go into 2 ohms, it changes to 115 by 4, and I believe it's 220 by 4 at 2 ohms. You can bridge the amplifier to where it would be 230 watts a channel by 2 at 4 ohms and 440 watts a channel at 4 ohms. If you do bridge them, it is limited to 4 ohms. Now, as great as this is, and it is, there is also a built-in 8-to-12 aerospace processor built into the amplifier. And this is all Class AB power. Now, this is a circuit that is very similar to what's in the 530. So everybody that has heard the Pro 530, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is an amazing sounding amplifier. Now we just got twice as many channels with almost the exact same kind of power, but now you've got all the different inputs that you can use with a full-blown DSP. And I will tell you, they have, on this one, every one of these inputs, Ben, they'll accept 30 volts of input.
30. That's pretty much every vehicle on the planet at this point.
Yeah, and that pretty much takes care, including the BMWs. So you can use this amplifier in any capacity you want, in any respect. So yeah, I mean, we're all really excited. I know dealer network is clamoring for them. I've got dealers in Texas that have called me that know my cell phone number. Unfortunately, no offense to any of you guys, but they've been calling me. So when does this get here? And I'm like, I don't know. You know, when they show up, there'll be an email blast out from Orca, and everybody's going to know. But we can't wait. It's created a ton of excitement on top of the 430. You know,
and you know what, Nick, this specifically the 830, I think, for the example I'm about to bring up here, it just adds another layer to the already extensive offering that Moscone has committed to from a DSP and a DSP integrated amplifier offering. You know, there's a lot of product within the category for Moscone. It's kind of like your go-to thing. And with all these new products coming and the new software update coming, I wanted to hear from your words, what does this represent for the future of Moscone within the DSP category moving forward?
Well, I think you're going to see it expanding, obviously, because let's face it, if you don't have the digital signal processing capabilities, you're not going to be able to fix and solve problems with, you know, signal coming off of an OEM amplifier. So that's imperative. There's an awful lot of vehicles that you can't put a standalone processor in and then add additional amplifiers in because you just don't have the room. So whether it's Class D operation to build very small amplifiers with DSP capability, or you're using something like, you know, like my Dodge truck, where we have room to use an 830 and a 430 together, which is what I'm going to do. Yeah, I mean,
of course you are.
Yeah,
of course you are.
Hey, go big or go home. You know, they realize that. And I think, you know, it's not a secret, you know, in the one series of Moscone amplifiers, there is a new 100.6 with a built-in DSP processor coming. That is a 6-channel Class AB amplifier. That's 100 watts of channels at 4 ohms with a built-in, you know, DSP. That's going to have analog outputs on it. And so you're going to be able to control an additional amplifier off of that. And, you know, the 830 has that as well. So going forward, I think you're going to see more efficient amplifiers coming. You're going to see amplifiers that are going to work off of 18 volts of input for Tesla. I know they've already got some 24 volt input amplifiers that are ready to go. It's just, you know, they're taking their time. They are working diligently to make sure that the market needs are being met with something that is ready to go, that we don't have to go debug the thing. And I think that's, you know, the way to go. And especially with this new circuit that Filippo's designed. Do
you think we're going to see more of it? Is that what you're about to say?
I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see another A/AB amplifier coming rather quickly. I don't know that, but given what these guys are trying to do, it wouldn't surprise me.
It's a good guess. I would say that's a good guess. Nick, I have you here. I'm going to ask you the final question of this evening.
Sure.
Lots of DSP options out there. Obviously, Moscone's been doing it longer than most. And of all the features that your DSP has to offer, what would you pick out as one standout signature Moscone DSP feature that you think dealers would appreciate the most?
Oh, that's the problem solving capability. On the input section of this, including with the measuring section of the DSP in the GUI, if you literally can solve any problem that you have off of an OEM amplifier, whether it's identifying input signal with how many filters it has into it, be it, you know, high pass, low pass, band pass, all pass filters, how much channel delay each individual input has. You can go in and correct for each individual one of those. You can go in and you literally can build, if you want to, a dynamic EQ section into it, where if you've got somebody that, you know, it listens to hip hop and rap at some stupid level, and you know they are, you can go build into that to where you can change the crossover frequency of the subwoofer to make sure that the sub can handle the kind of power you're fixing to throw into it versus the mid-bass driver. I mean, that's where this product shines in every respect. Because, I mean, if you stop and think about where we're going from today forward, you know, we're not going to have the ability, whether it's NAV TV or whether it's Amp of America pack, to where we have an interface for every single car manufactured, you know, in North America.
Not realistic.
It's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So you've got to be able to solve those problems, and being able to sum as quickly as you can, which we're going to talk about next week, and we'll show you how to do it, and be able to solve for those issues, whether it's all pass filters, whether it's, you know, high pass, low pass, band pass, you know, channel delay off of an OEM channel. You can correct for all of that. And not very many units out there can do that. As a matter of fact, I think we're the only one that can.
It claims from Nick Wingate. Sir, thank you so much for spending the time with us. I know you're busy, but I'm really happy you made the time, because this was some really important information we want to get out to the dealers, especially all this great news coming from Moscone. So on that note, sir, we'll see you next week when we dive in deep with Moscone.
Take care. Anytime, Ben.
So I just want to remind you guys, we will be doing that deep dive one-on-one with Nick and Moscone next Tuesday on the 19th. So make sure you tune in for that. If you're looking for more information on Moscone, if you want to visit their website, it is moscone-america.com, where you'll find out all the information, including the new products we just discussed. And if you're a Canadian dealer, make sure you reach out to Trends Electronics. They can be found at trendsinc.com, as they are the Moscone dealer, or a distributor rather, for Canada. Let's get on to our very next brand who's really dropped some big news in the last month or so. Big moves. I love this. DSP is a category that's just shaken all over the place. Of course, I'm talking about the electro media brand Audison. More specifically, we're going to get on into the studio, Mr. Ken Ward again, who's their international technical marketing manager, because he's got some news for you. If you haven't heard already, we're going to hear it again because it's some pretty exciting stuff. Come on, Ken, let's get into the studio here. What's going on, Ken?
Hey, Ben, thanks for having me.
Of course. Are you kidding me? How can we not have Ken Ward here to talk about exactly what you're wearing on your shirt today, which says Forza in Italian? Tell us about this new Forza brand of DSP integrated amplifiers that was just launched just a few short weeks ago. Tell us all about it.
Well, this is our second generation of DSP amplifiers. And one of the things that we heard very clearly from North American dealers is that they wanted to have plenty of power. So the reason that we took the Forza name, which we had used for one model in amplifiers with DSP in the past, and applied it to an entire line, was to let people know very clearly Forza is Italian for force or power. And these amplifiers are powerful amplifiers. They're powerful DSP processors, and there's a lot of power inherent in the design and the implementation. So that is a great name to describe this family of products.
I love that word, Forza. It's a sexy word. I think you have one, I believe, that you can finally show us, because I wasn't there, so I didn't get to really see it. So hopefully you have one you can show. But while you're showing it, talk to us about some of the key features that really set it apart from its predecessor, the Prima lineup.
Well, I've been hip deep in this for some time, so it's really at the front of my mind. By the way, this is the compact 8-channel. This is 65 watts by 8 channels. It's fully bridgeable. It has 8 analog inputs native in the circuit board, plus the option for an additional 4 with an add-on card. It's a very flexible piece of equipment. So there are 3 areas that we believe that dealers encounter difficulty when they're trying to get into the business of using DSP to deliver great sound. One of them is OEM integration. That's become more complex, and our understanding of what was already happening has become more complex. One of them is the tuning side. A lot of the same tools that we have to correct the OEM system need to be applied in terms of overcoming the acoustics in the car. And we often say we're overcoming the acoustics in the car because we don't want to take the heat for it. But a lot of the things we have to overcome really stem from the fact that we installed a bunch of speakers in the car in different locations, and they're all playing the same note at the same time. And when they do that, we've got problems we have to solve. And that kind of leads me into the third thing that we find that dealers run into. And that is that everything is more complex than it used to be. I go back to where some of the radios that I sold that went into dashboards had a mechanical dial and push buttons that you could, when you push the button, the dial would slide across the front of the radio. And the most complicated thing about that radio was figuring out how to preset your radio stations to each of those push buttons. And gosh, those days are gone.
I still can't figure that out, to be honest with you.
I'm glad we went to digital. So along those lines, what we felt our challenge was for introducing Forza, we wanted to have plenty of amplifier power. We wanted to have plenty of DSP processing that was usable and applicable to the problems that we have. One of the things that we made a point of, we didn't want to bury a bunch of resources in a unusable way. We didn't want to give you a lot of EQ bands in a place where you can't use them and then not have them available in a place where you would need them. So we were very, very circumspect about where we put the resources in the product. And then we wrapped it all up in the new BitDrive software application. And the new BitDrive software application, we like to call it the last Audison icon that you'll ever have or need, because it will control everything we make in the future. It's a dynamically configuring software that has a handshake built into it, so we won't have a proliferation of different applications. Now, when a dealer looks at it, if the dealer has history with Audison, it'll be obvious where things are. So there won't be a learning curve just because it's a new software. A lot of it will be very, very intuitive. However, there are a few new features that were not in the previous iteration. For example, the only product that we've had with phase correction on the input, with all pass filter correction on the input, was the Virtuoso, our flagship processor. Not only have we implemented that now in every Forza bit amplifier, but it's actually one step above, where we've actually gone to another level of phase correction in Forza than we did in Virtuoso. One of the ways that is usable by the dealer, we have a fully functional electrical RTA built in. Now, I've been preaching, as you know, that dealers should have electrical RTAs to test wires, and some of our dealers are at the forefront of that, and some dealers haven't gotten around to it yet. So simply connecting the speaker wires to this amplifier, you will be able to play a pink noise track on the factory radio and see exactly what the frequency response is on each input channel, and easily check to see if your lefts and rights and fronts and rears are all correct. Then we'll be able to sum channels together, just like we do in Virtuoso, and show you where any cancellations are or where any time arrival synchronization problems are. And you can use in the input EQ phase equalization and delay to make sure you're ready to tune the car. When in our analysis, most of the tuning challenges that dealers run into are really unresolved OEM integration challenges that prevent successful tuning.
Well, I'll tell you that BitDrive has a fresh new interface first and foremost, and it's all those features that you talk about. I want to remind our listeners, tune in. It's a week from today, next Wednesday. Ken's actually going to show you live with the screen share exactly how this works, where to go, and the whole 9 yards, and you're going to see this new interface is quite slick. Let's talk about the benefits of this new software. I mean, you mentioned a few there, but when it comes to a dealer perspective, the first question they're going to look at is, great, new software I need to learn, right? That's the first thing they're going to say. The second thing is, what benefits are there for me to make my time more efficient, especially when it comes to the setup and the tuning?
That is a great question, and that's a place where I feel like I've actually been able to help our R&D team just a little bit, because I spent so many years in the install bay. And so the first one is that electrical RTA that I mentioned. Hook up the speaker wires, then make sure they're correct, and then you can work with them to get what you need. The second part is that this is our third product with an acoustic RTA built in addition to our tuning measurement system, the bit tune. We have a RTA built into the Virtuoso, and then we have a RTA built into a marine amplifier that's in another product line of ours. So this RTA maps onto the EQ band, and you can buy a sub $100 USB measurement microphone. We validated it with the Parts Express Dayton UMM6. We validated it with the Mini DSP. In fact, we haven't tried anything that doesn't work yet. It just matches up really well with the USB audio source standard. So you can connect a microphone that's under $100, and you can now go through the entire process that I've been teaching for years on OEM integration and on acoustic tuning without having to buy anything else.
All in one.
All in one. Another thing that we found, we are an international company, and we actually do business in all over the world. And so we've switched from a text-driven labeling system to an icon system with info tips. If you mouse over any of the icons because you don't know what they are, and the first time you see an icon, it may not be as intuitive as we would like. So mousing over it will show you the description in the language that you selected for the software. And we also have embedded help files in each functional block of the software. If you're looking at the crossover section or you're looking at the delay section and you have a question about how it works, you click on the question mark and it'll bring up the online help file so that you can review what you need to know. That's actually the manual. Don't tell anybody.
But somebody still had to break that out and put it at the places that count. I just want to say, I don't want to discredit. That's a lot of work right there. Okay. New Forza line of amplifiers. A couple models already coming in. We're going to learn all about that. I think the 5-channel is going to be an absolute smashing success, and the 8-channel and above is just going to blow people's minds. Having said that, I don't know if you mentioned the high-res audio. I think that's an important thing that we mentioned. Multiple different inputs. You got a coax digital. You've got Maestro integration. That's something else that's kind of interesting as well from a flexibility standpoint. Then you have the bit drive software, right? New interface, RTA, new tools, so on and so forth. You said something that I'm going to circle back on right now, and that you said this is the last button you're ever going to have to press. So what does this mean now, looking at the bigger picture? There's a new line of amplifiers. There's a new software to go with. What does this mean for DSP and Audison moving forward?
Well, we've been committed to the category for quite some time. We were one of the first companies to go into the combination DSP business, and quite frankly, some of the people that were in it at that time have disappeared. We are committed to it. When it comes to the digital input, Audison got its start as an audiophile company. It got its start as a company that cared about sound quality. The most important part about DSP is to overcome the things the sound does to the car. So we have a software that will be controlling our future products as well as this family of products. You learn this software, you don't have to learn another software for a really, really long time.
You promise?
Now,
Pinky swear?
Pardon?
You pinky swear promise that?
Yep.
Right.
If I have a moment.
Absolutely. Go ahead. You
mentioned Maestro, and you mentioned the digital input. So I want to mention something about digital for a moment. The original SPDIF standard did not include volume control. We have some products today that overlay volume control onto SPDIF, but in order to do that, we have to take the bit depth and use some of those bits for volume control. So we actually reduce the dynamic range of the digital signal when we control volume over SPDIF. So with a Maestro, if you have a Maestro that has a SPDIF, or if you are using our Beacon Bluetooth streamer that's high res, you can go into what's called an absolute volume mode. And when you go into absolute volume mode, the bits are all fixed at full volume. And the volume control is executed on the output of our amplifier, as if you were changing the volume on our digital remote control. Now, this is the second generation of products with Maestro implementation. And the first one didn't have full speed Maestro support. We had already designed the product, and we couldn't build a serial port into that product that met Maestro specifications. So this product, Maestro was part of it from the ground up, and we have a dedicated high-speed serial data port. So if you've ever had a Chrysler with Maestro AR, and you've changed the volume knob on our amplifier, and there was a lag, those days are gone. You will see full speed volume control from the Maestro, and you will also see full bit depth support from our Beacon that will give you the best digital you can get.
Great news. And again, just great features on the audio input side and just flexibility for advanced OEM integration with Maestro as a solution.
I forgot to mention, we have 6 DSP processed outputs that are unique on top of the amplified outputs for almost every product. The one that it doesn't have a full 6 is the 12 channel, because it's a 14 channel DSP, so it only has 2 pre-outs. So if you do a 5-channel amp, and we have a 5-channel amp that we're coming out with, which is 1200 watts of RMS power into 2 ohms, and the way most dealers will use it is 100 by 4 into 2 ohms and 600 by 1 into a 2 ohm subwoofer. That also has 6 analog pre-outs. So if you have a customer that comes in and gets front and rear and sub, the traditional 5-channel situation, and then later they want to upgrade to an active front end, you can actually drop in a 4-channel amp, plug in the pre-outs, and go to a 3-way active front stage plus rear plus sub in a 2 chassis system.
And you didn't have to swap out the original amp, which is the most important part.
Oh, yeah, and you don't have to perform a complete setup from scratch either, because our setup files are now editable without having to start from the beginning.
And you can save them, which is nice. All right. Ken, if the folks tuned in, they're interested in Audison, especially that new Forza setup and the new bit drive, check out the website, audison.eu. It's an international website. I just checked it this morning. The new Forza information is on there. So go check it out. If you're a Canadian dealer, well, then you're going to have to get with their Canadian distributor, which is, of course, Auto Mobility. You can reach them at automob.ca. Next Wednesday, Ken, it's a date. I'm looking forward to seeing you go through all that new bit drive gear software.
Thanks, man.
Take care, man. All right, we're going to switch from, I guess, an established brand or a legacy brand in DSP, you can say, that's Audison, and go to kind of like a new kid on the block. They've been around not too long. They're definitely new in the North American market, and their distributor, BB Distribution, is standing by the product because it's got some fresh looks, it's got some fresh features, and again, it's a new brand. Well, new for us. Hasn't been quite so new over in Europe, but we're going to learn about it tonight. So from BB Distribution, we have their senior product manager, Mr. Jeff Thorett, coming to the studio. Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Good, Ben. How's it going?
I'm happy to have you here because, a lot of the brands that are presenting tonight, you can say they're legacy brands. Who doesn't know, the Alpine and all these brands, right? But you're bringing a different proposition, and it's a newer brand for North American market that has found quite a bit of success in Germany. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the background of the Museway brand and why is it in the BB catalog?
Yeah, I mean, B&B needed, or BB Distribution, needed a high-end DSP to go with our Focal Utopia systems. After doing a lot of research, product comparisons, we found Museway was the perfect fit, and our dealers have been saying it's nothing but perfection since. Little history on Museway. Started in 2009. Museway stands for Music is the Way. They started developing high-end DACs. That was a massive success for them, and then they transitioned into high-end DSPs with the new launch of the M12, which has been much anticipated, and I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit here.
That's an interesting thing I wanted to take give a little bit of perspective on. While most of the brands in car audio started building amplifiers, they went and added digital processing to their amplifier platform. Music's kind of different in that sense, like you just highlighted here, Jeff, whereby they actually started in the signal processing business and then started adding amplification to it. So just an interesting, kind of different type of route to get to the same destination. What are some of the standout features that we can talk about? So, listeners that are maybe learning about Museway for the first time could understand what makes Museway unique.
I think one of the biggest ones, and everyone's almost talked about it so far tonight, is the software. It's very easy to use. It's clean. Everything's on one page. I know Jaron and Autumn have an episode with you on Friday.
Yeah, a full-on workshop. Absolutely.
They'll dive into that. They'll show everyone the tuning process. So we'll leave that to the tuning experts. The Tunist app is pretty cool. It's the new Bluetooth dongle, allows you to stream and set up via app, Android and Apple compatible. So something new and exciting there. All their DSPs are using the newest high-end components, utilizing Burr Brown chipsets. The fit and finish is top notch. They're beautiful, and they're great to build into your presentation. Like I said, if you've got Utopia, it's a match made in heaven. And then finally, the presentation. Everything from the box it comes in, it doesn't matter if it's the DRC1 or the BTA dongle or the new M12. It's a nice matte finish box. You can put it on your shelf and you can charge a premium dollar for it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think you might have something here to show us. On that note, why don't you give us a feel for what this package looks like, what the product looks like, and while you're doing it, tell us about some of the newest products that have been added to the offering.
So here's the brand new M12. 12-channel Class D amps with the built-in 16-channel DSP, 85 watts per channel. We just got these in. This is what Autumn and Jaron will be playing with on
If you don't
Friday.
mind, just hold that up for 1 second. So that is a 12-channel amplifier. With how many channels of DSP? Is that the one with 12, 16? Is that what it is?
16.
Wow. Very, very clean. For many, this will be the first time they might be seeing this product. But as not Jaron, I called you Jaron, Jeff. As Jeff was saying, I mean, just clean lines, that kind of edgeless design, really slick. What else we got?
Here's the little BTA2, the little Bluetooth dongle. As you can see, even something that's most likely hidden in an install, glass finish, high gloss, beautiful build, high quality. And like I said, even the boxes, something so simple, but it's still the nice high-end box that you can merchandise well and charge the premium dollar for. And then something that's new to the Canadian market that Museway had out for a while is the D1S, the 4-channel Class AB amp with the 6-channel DSP. Small little tiny package. And again, it's got that glass finish just like the Tune 12.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It has certainly a unique look to it, like you were saying. So, I mean, obviously the aesthetics are there. I think that one's going to be hard to argue. So what is some of the feedback you've had from dealers that have, you call them up, try it, they've tried it? What is the feedback and why are they falling in love with it?
The feedback's been great. It's been a fun line for us. It's something new. It's something exciting. Like you said, it's the new kid on the block. So dealers are willing to try it. Like I kind of talked about earlier, it's the software. Everything's on one page. It's user friendly. At no point during the tuning process do you have to leave that page. So it's making the tuning process easier, quicker. Shop efficiencies are much higher, which every shop owner and shop foreman want. And again, Jaron and Autumn are going to dive into it pretty heavily on the 15th. So we'll let them do their thing there. But I encourage everyone to reach out to their sales rep or call the order desk and get a piece in on your demo board or your display car and experience it.
I had the chance to kind of start planning that show with Autumn, and when he showed me what you're referring to right there, I think dealers are going to tune in and are going to be pleasantly surprised to see just how simple that software actually is. Okay, so let's do the checklist here. They look great. The boxing is amazing. It's kind of a fresh new kid on the block. It's a digital sound processing company that's got into amplification and integrated amplifiers. It's got some amazing features, but what about the price, Jeff? Is this gonna because you mentioned I'm sorry, you did say Utopia M, right?
Yes.
So now I'm thinking, where's Jeff going with this? As far as
I mean, it's awesome. The pricing's another benefit to this line. The margins are huge. The pricing's aggressive, and the dealers can make a lot of money. No online presence. It's great. It's clean. It's fun. Call us up. Call your rep up and get a Museway price book, and we'll get something on the way to you.
I'm sure you'll send something up for them to try, because I think once they play with it, they'll understand everything you just talked about tonight.
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely.
If you're looking for Museway, this is maybe a new brand. Like I said, check it out, museway.de, because from Germany, that's where Museway is from. But all the information that Jeff was referring to, especially on the new M12 unit, can be found on this website. And if you're a Canadian dealer, make sure you reach out to BB Distribution. There's their website there. Again, great opportunity to get on a new line that's kind of fresh. Not everybody has. And I believe what you just said, Jeff, not on the web, which is kind of a plus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for coming in this evening and talking
Thanks,
about Museway. Take care.
Have a good one.
You too. All right, last but not least, let's bring on the big gun. This one I'm excited to I'm always excited to talk to Fred Lynch of Arc Audio, because Arc Audio takes DSP pretty darn serious. And I don't know how much I'm going to be able to extract from him tonight. I know we have another session that's a little bit later on in this month. I know that one I'm going to get. We'll see what we can get out of him tonight. Anyhow, let's bring him into the studio. He's the international sales manager again for Arc Audio, Mr. Fred Lynch. See this? I'm massaging before I even ask you questions, Fred. Thanks for being here tonight, of course.
Well, I had to become a part of the second order, as you say. So.
Oh, don't be! I'm talking about that. Shh. Okay. Let's get into the questions. Arc Audio. You know, you dropped a little bit of a hammer in our last session where we talked about kind of new stuff for 2022. At that point, it was kind of very, Ben, I'm not sure when it's coming. It's going to kind of look like this. You're offering some new product, right, in the DSP line. That's why you're here. Tell us more about the Nighthawk and the Blackbird.
Well, so Arc Audio has been involved in the DSP market, standalone DSPs and amplified DSPs now since roughly about 2012. We started with our PS8, which was the standalone piece. We ran with that for quite successfully for several years, and then we upped into our Pro Series DSP platform. With the Pro Series DSP platform, that was kind of a modular system to where we can expand it into everything from a standalone DSP to integrated amplifier solutions, even modular amplifier solutions. And one of the amplifiers that we had for quite some time was the PS850. The PS850 was a phenomenal piece. We sold tons of them. Once again, much in the Arc Audio stature, we focused them strictly on the high-end market, but it was done in such a way to where it was a go-to product for a lot of companies because there was no compromise to performance. There was no compromise to sound quality. It kept all of our fundamentals in place for what we've consistently built our products for. One thing that dealers and customers wanted is they wanted, well, a couple things: more power, more features, additional outputs, and they wanted expandability options for additional amplifiers on dedicated DSP outputs. And those are just a few things that the Blackbird and the Nighthawk are bringing in. We sneak peeked it a little bit at the Knowledge Fest event in Las Vegas, as well as also the Master Tech event. And the feedback has been extremely overwhelming. And even though we're not quite going to give an exact date on there, we can say that hardware is currently running through the lines as we speak, and we have to finish some code because there's a lot of changes coming up in the software and firmware, and with some new features, some new tools, and just a lot of things that we're doing to bring this product to market, mainly because of the feedback that we get from the people using it and our dealers and all the people who want to learn more about DSPs.
Well, there's a lot of people that learn more about DSP, so much that we had to do a whole month about it, and we had to split this into 2 lives because it's the hot topic. So you actually gave me absolutely nothing new, so thank you for that. But I do recommend listeners tuning in to Fred and I. We're going to go one-on-one deep into this stuff next Thursday, the 21st. So hopefully by then we'll be able to squeeze a little bit more out of him then.
We could squeeze a lot out of me in that upcoming session because, like I say, with the Blackbird and the Nighthawk, there's more power, there's more flexibility.
Tell us a little bit. What are some of the key features and benefits coming from these apps?
So with the Blackbird, one of the biggest thing is it's a 12-channel design. So we're still keeping everything within exactly the same platform. Same chassis size as the PS850. So it's not like it's gotten bigger. We've just put more power and more features in the same chassis. One of the biggest things with the PS850 that people had complained about was channel 7 and 8 RCA output to add additional amplifiers was a parallel circuit in the DSP. So it actually operated tuning-wise the same signal coming out of 7 and 8 as well as to 7 and 8 off the amplifier portion of it, which created some challenges for some people on certain systems. So in this case, it's an 8-channel output amplifier with 4 additional channels of output capable of 8 volts on the RC outputs with dedicated channels on all of it. And of course, it's got SPDIF input for optical. It's got high-level input. We also have digital coaxial capability, full 96-192, basically high-res capable inputs. And of course, the biggest one that we've ran with, and we've of course continued to develop more features, functions, and advancements with it, is the Maestro OEM integration capability with it, which is a huge deal for our product because, of course, we're the only company out there right now running full, at least at this time, full speed digital communication bus with Maestro to where it's expandable across multiple DSPs as well as multiple ARs. So you can scale this. You're not limited just to one device and some RCA outputs. You could actually, if you need on the crazy end of things, 24 channels of 24 channels of active control through Maestro. You can do that with our stuff.
If only I knew somebody crazy enough to set something up like that. Who would do that? Crazy. All right, so 12 channels, that's exciting. Big power, exciting. Same small chassis, also exciting. Integration options, Maestro, and digital, coax, SPDIF, you name it, all very exciting stuff. The big question is this, though. You've kind of had this line, right, with the PS850, and then all of a sudden you're jumping to these two new products. What does this represent? Is this a new standard we're starting to get a glimpse of? Is this a new departure? I'm trying to get into the head of the product planning for ARC Audio moving forward.
So the revisements that we're doing currently in the Pro Series DSP is going to represent a new standard for our company because, of course, one of the complaints we had is we had multiple pieces of software for multiple products. This is not only a future development and new product piece that we're dealing with when it comes to the software, it's also a legacy product. So when we use it, it basically, the term that Maestro likes to use is handshake. It does that handshake between the components, between the computer. So when you plug in, it automatically knows what you have it plugged into. And so in this case, we're building this to be scalable. So it'll represent, here we go, mic drop coming. This will represent the software for the new PSM that will be coming out. This will be representing for all the other amplified DSP solutions that we have coming down the pipeline. This will come for the new 12 by 12, 12 channel standalone DSP. This will also be for the other extensions that are in the Blackbird. And then of course, the Nighthawk is actually complementary to that line, and it's not even a DSP piece, but it's the same chassis, same cosmetics to complete the line, giving you a very subcompact, very high efficiency amplifier, over 95% efficient, 800 watt amplifier at 0.005% THD at full power. Exceptionally clean output for a Class D amplifier, and like I say, everything's all operated off of one piece of software now. So people, it is the last time you're going to have to deal with us having multiple platforms, multiple DSPs, multiple software, things like that. And that way, every time you get into one of our products, everything looks the same, everything operates the same, it becomes fluent and easy. And one of the things that we've done with the software, and we've continued to develop it over the years, is when it comes down in the tuning end of it, there's a lot of great tuning product out there. There's a lot of great equipment out there. There's a lot of manufacturers coming out with some great automation solutions, more or less tools to do tuning. But one of the things that none of that really does is teach the process. And, of course, you have to be able to have the backup if the automation fails. So all of our software actually tells a story in the process. And that's something we work with our dealers to help make them understand, and they work with us to teach it how it make it easier for them without throwing automation into the software and then having engineered restrictions put in place.
Well, you took my next question and kind of mumbled it in, but you answered it. And I was going to ask you about the new software, but you went into it. But I will want to circle back to one thing. I was going to ask you, when I asked you what else is coming up, I didn't ask you that, but what does this mean moving forward? I kind of knew. I think everybody knows. If you're going to drop a 12-channel DSP integrated amplifier, next thing's going to come out is going to be a standalone 12-channel DSP. So I could definitely see that coming. And I wager that we're going to see multiple renditions, multiple channel variations of the same type of amplifier a little bit later down on the pipe.
The thing with the Blackbird is the reason why we started with it with this new revision is it's obviously the most complex from a hardware and software side, especially with all the additional features and tools that we're putting in place with it. And this is something that when we go through next week, we're actually going to do a walkthrough and we'll show you everything in there. We're not going to do a tuning process, but we're going to walk you through the process to show you the steps, show you where the features are, show you all the new toys that we've got put in, and all the resources that are now available to the installers. Like I said, we're going to do the update process, which is more mainstream. Even the reporting software on it is much more mainstream, so we can offer better technical support directly to our customers as well as our retailers too. But we're starting with the most advanced. That way we can take that big project and we can turn around and slide out additional projects at a very rapid rate over the next 12 months.
Exciting, very exciting stuff. Let's talk about the dealers. Obviously we make all this great gear. You make all this great gear, put all this thought, resource, development, feedback and all that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, here's what I want to know. What are some of the main challenges that installers are facing that you've identified from Arc Audio's perspective? And now, how can you tell those same people who are facing those challenges that Arc Audio is the ideal choice for them? Because Arc Audio can help remedy these challenges, ...
So, one of the biggest things that's been a challenge in the DSP industry is there are very, very few companies that actually design and develop their own DSPs. Just about anybody could write a piece of software and put a logo on it. And unfortunately, there is a lot of that in this industry. Arc Audio is one of the few companies that is still out there doing ground up development on everything from the hardware to the software to the mechanical end of it. And as a result, one of the things that makes Arc Audio a go-to product is the fact that, if there is for some reason a bug or a problem that slips through the cracks, if there is a unique situation that exposes a new challenge with an application towards the DSP, because the fact that we are involved in every single layer of the development process on there, we can react much faster, and we also have the ability to handle internally versus having to rely on third-party sources outside, which is something that's it's unique to only a handful of manufacturers out there. There's a lot of great products out there, but it's still all code that is written by humans, and when you're talking about hundreds of thousands of lines of code in order to make these computers more or less is what they are work, and to give the performance, the ability to stay on top of that code and to be able to change, recognize, modify, update, that is all extremely important. So that's one of the number one things is we can react quickly to it. Two, it's the support network. The support network that we have here, everybody on the support team for the DSPs were either current competitors or ex-competitors that have been out there at the top of the classes, and IASCA, Mecca, USAC, even Emma. And we know the challenges of tuning high-end systems. At the same time, most of us have all retail experience doing OEM integration, and we are taking everything that we're learning by being hands-on with our retailers and doing hands-on training, hands-on development, hands-on exposure to what the real world is right now. Marketing tools and putting fancy names on technology is great, but it's not realistic to necessarily just solving the problems, because we have to help our dealers understand how the technology works versus just giving them a button. And that is one big part about Arc Audio and the things that we do different. And two, it doesn't matter what tier of performance or what level of product in our DSP line it is, the fundamentals of the way that we design our product and the focus of where the most important thing is, which is reliability, performance, and sound quality, those three things, regardless of the price, is never ever compromised. And that is something that we will always stay true to.
Very good. I can't help but talk about these two white pillowcases behind you.
Yeah, they're T-shirts, but unfortunately, I had to cover a couple things up. There's some other things in the works that we weren't ready to quite show yet. So,
all good. Well, I'll get you sooner or later. I will.
Lots of things. I mean, speakers and subs and everything else. So it's the company that is never evolving and developing and coming out with new products is the company that needs to close their doors. So.
Well, it doesn't seem to be Arc for this in this particular moment. If you like what Fred has to say and it clicks with what, it jives, you're jiving what he's saying, check out his products. Go to arcaudio.com. That is their official website. Is the information on the new Nighthawk and Blackbird up there? yet?
It is not on the website yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Actually, next week will be the first real in-depth dive into the software and a lot more in-depth as far as the product goes on our live broadcast.
So unfortunately, you're going to have to come back to CMA Networks to get the goods before you even go to Arc Audio, but eventually you'll be on arcaudio.com. And you happen to be a Canadian dealer, we'll get a hold of Importel. They are the Canadian exclusive distributor for all things Arc Audio. Fred, thank you so much. Looking forward to our session together, sir. And I'll see you then.
Thank you. Definitely.
Take care.
You too.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that one. This is part one of part two because there's that much action going on in DSP. But like I said, we're always trying to bring you guys the best brands, the latest products, the latest technology, the latest software, so you guys can make an educated choice to make sure your business is on top of things at all times. I want to thank all the brands that joined us tonight. You know, Moscone, Audio Control, Audison, Museway, Alpine, and of course, Arc Audio. And you know what? We've got part two coming up in not so long, going down on July 28th. That's going to be DSP part two, where we'll have another 6 brands to give them an opportunity to showcase their wares. And of course, all month long, like I've been saying this entire show, tune into CMA Networks because we've got the DSP sessions going on right through till Thursday, July 28th. Literally every brand that does DSP is presenting during these sessions. You don't want to miss it. And if you do love this video and any other CMA Live we've done before, believe it or not, it's all archived. One place, cmanetworks.com, where you'll find hundreds of videos. Search by brand, by category, or by your favorite trainer. Everybody that was on this evening has their own profile. Go and check it out. Thanks for hanging with us on this CMA Live, all about DSP and presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
Stop it. Yo, roll it down. I am.
You don't need a car to listen to SiriusXM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What? What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on SiriusXM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?